Hello, everybody. Today I would like to tell you about Geoffrey de Havilland. Geoffrey de Havilland was born July 27th, 1885. He was an engineer, a leading aviation pioneer, and the creator of the Havilland War Enterprise. He was also a flight tester, and as you can tell, he was a good businessman. In the beginning, he was an engineer by his degree that he got from of the Crystal Palace School of Engineering, Great Britain. He designed his own motorbike in 1905 and created his own engine to actually make it go. Uh, After that, he joined a motor car company and realized that the engineering industry is very slow-paced, despite the fact that it has a lot of potential. Uh, he was very interested in designing gliders, and he asked his grandfather to fund his beginnings in the aviation industry that he decided to work in, and he started designing his first biplanes with the friend Frank Hierl. The first biplane was biplane number one. He was not successful with flying it, but the same year, in 1909, he designed a second one, biplane number two, and they presented it to War Office of Great Britain and got £400 for that. Uh, Showed a very successful sustained flight and secured a spot as a head leaders of the design department of Air Company and Balloon Factory, which was then renamed as the Royal Aircraft Factory. As they decided to become head designers in the air company, in the beginning of the World War I, they had to design military aircrafts, and de Havilland was actually responsible for all the aircrafts that were fighting and produced by the air company. For example, the Havilland 2, which was a pusher fighter, and the Havilland 3 and 10, which were twin engine bombers. The Havilland 4 was a day bomber, which was a very important aircraft. It was faster than many World War I fighters, and you will find out why it was important later. The Havilland 9 variations were produced in the United States after the war, and during the war, about 3,000 of those were produced under the license of Air Company in Russian Empire, named as RS-1. It was the first step of de Havilland world expansion. After the World War I, Air Company went bankrupt, and de Havilland decided to create his own enterprise called the Havilland World Enterprise. It was created in 1920, and he employed 20 people from Air Company right away. Also, they started continuing expansion as they manufactured more and more aircrafts. They were creating airliners and also participated in 1933 in the English-Australian air race. One of the aircrafts, which was de Havilland 88, actually won one of the air races and took one of the leading places. And it gives more financial stability to the Havilland enterprise, and they expanded to Canada, Australia, United States, New Zealand, South Africa, India for better logistical purposes. But then, in the beginning of World War II, de Havilland had to cease all the production of the civil aircrafts. But before that, I would like to point your attention at the fact that the first aircraft, the first bomber that was created by de Havilland in World War II was the Havilland 91 Mosquito. This aircraft was based off the design of the commercial airliners. That's an interesting fact because later, after the World War II, all the innovations that were made when during the Cold War were only borrowed by the commercial side of aviation and first implemented on the military aircrafts. Here it was in a different, it was a little bit different. He also, by the end of the war, de Havilland designed DH-100, which was the second turbojet aircraft ever used by the Royal Air Force. It was not the very first turbojet aircraft used by the Allied forces. The very first one was the Meteor. It was called Meteor. It's located in the right here. This aircraft was used to defend Britain against the V-1 rockets. The one here, it was a DH-100. Yes, and it's ugly. It's reached the speed of 760 kilometers per hour. It was its own record, made in 1945. Right after the World War II, they focused on the commercial jet airliners and created de Havilland Comet 1. It was the very first jet airliner based of what they achieved and based on the experience they got with the DH-100 during the World War II. They applied all this knowledge to the commercial airliner. It was produced in 1949. It was competing with the Soviet Union aircrafts and French aircrafts back then. And it had a lot of problems. It had a problem with the decompression and design of the windows, killed a lot of people. Everybody on board, in case of this emergency, was killed. The very first customers were BOAC, British European Airways, Kuwait Airways, Pakistan International. But despite the 26 lost aircraft, it still was a pretty successful and innovative aircraft. De Havilland produced their own engines. That was very important. They had their own engine company, and for many other de Havilland produced aircrafts. Also, they did not stop there. De Havilland 121 was the very first operational three-jet airliner ever created, and de Havilland 125 was the very first executive jet from de Havilland. It was very successful and very popular. Geoffrey was a very interesting person, especially when we talk about his family. He lost his wife Louis in 1949, and it was a big tragedy. And right before that, he lost his sons 1943 and 1946. They were both test pilots, and they gave their lives in the flight tests. And Geoffrey was a flight tester himself, and despite all those tragedies that affected him, he did not give up. And as we know, he carried on and got even more engaged in the process of making his designs better. He went from enthusiastic tests with the biplanes to a very first commercial jet airliners. And he expanded his network to other continents, to Australia, Canada, India, as was mentioned before, started his own technical school, the Havilland Engine Company, and opened a lot of facilities across the globe. De Havilland was a fan of natural wildlife photography and especially the butterflies. And as BAE Systems stated, he was his 60s DH design was a very successful one in 1925. As you can see to the right, it's him next to this plane, and it was named the Moth right after his love of lepidopterology, the study of butterflies and moths. I hope you enjoyed this small biography video about the Geoffrey de Havilland. Those are the sources I used for this presentation. I hope you all have a great day.